This is a reminder there will be spoilers for the James Gunn Superman movie.
How much do you want to say and how much do you don't want to say? Because it's still, it just came out this past weekend. It depends on how quickly you edit and release.
I'm hoping to get this out tomorrow. Today's Wednesday. I'm hoping to get it out Thursday. There will be limited editing, so you'll hear more of my uhs than usual.
An even dozen's what we're looking for.
Right, exactly.
Write back to us and tell us how many you counted as you listeners.
It's a new contest.
Yeah. Hey, I was wondering if you wanted to try maybe first part of it spoiler free, just reaction, and then for those who want to continue on, if they're brave souls, then we can go into the spoiler territory.
I like it.
You're listening to And This Is Why I Love Comics.
Andy and Mike. Andy and Mike.
Please elaborate.
And welcome to another episode of This Is Why I Love Comics. I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
And we're talking today. We've both seen the Superman James Gunn movie. It's been out since, a week? A week from tomorrow?
Yeah, it depends. If you're an Amazon Prime member and saw it on Tuesday for a hamburger today.
What? Really? I am one, and I didn't see it until Tuesday of this week.
Reviewers could watch it on, I think, Wednesday, and then the actual, it dropped on Thursday night for the rest of humanity, the unwashed masses.
You've seen it twice. Now, that's dedication. That must mean you loved it.
Loved my family. Got to see it with my wife and daughter on Saturday morning, the first showing of the day. Got there at 9:50. And then saw it on Sunday night with my son. Thus, the double watch. I'm really hard-pressed to watch a movie twice in the theater. Because the newness of the experience, almost on any movie, doesn't matter. It could be the best movie of all time ever. And it's like, I saw the grandeur. I don't think I need to see it again. I remember going to see Mad Max Fury Road in IMAX. And it's like, wow, this is great. We'll never watch that movie again. It was a fantastic experience. It was great watching the movie on that giant screen. But then it's like, okay, I got it. Kind of understood everything about it.
Yeah, we were talking on our text chat with producer Tony, and I'm pretty sure the last movie I saw twice was Phantom Menace with our friend Aaron at the midnight showing. And that was, I can't think of any other movie I've seen twice in the theater.
Yeah, or at least went out of your way specifically to see it twice. I gotta go right back. I gotta see it again.
Now, the original Star Wars and Empire and Return of the Jedi, I've seen those a dozen times in the theater. But after Phantom Menace, I'm not sure there was any movie I had to see again.
You know what? I'm going to have to retract and redact everything I just said because the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I went to see it with my folks and I went to see it with some friends from work.
Okay.
So
I'll allow that.
That was, and it was also, those things were released around Christmas time. And it was it spoke to me about the holidays for those 3 years in a row. It was like tradition.
I think I did only see those once in the theater, but of course, many times at home.
Still hold up the original, the real Lord of the Rings, not the Hobbit trilogy, but
there are parts of the Hobbit I like, but
yeah, the parts that were based off the book.
Oh yeah, which is only about 30% of the movies.
Yeah, let's introduce some new characters.
The rest is fiction on the fiction.
So, briefer introduction to the movie. Obviously, this was just Superman. What did you think about it just being called Superman? Just Superman.
Yeah, I didn't mind that. Man of Steel was already taken.
Man of Tomorrow.
Man of Tomorrow would have been great, but I didn't mind Superman. You're kind of establishing, you'd think the movie would be about Superman, Can I say that?
Yeah, that's not
But
spoilers. We saw in the trailers. If it's in the trailers, it can't be that part can't be spoilers. But yeah,
right. It should have been called Superman and Crypto.
it really was almost a Super Friends movie. Is what they could have called it.
Was. I'll tell you. Overall, I enjoyed myself. I liked it. Let me start by saying the actors chosen for Superman and, all the side characters and Guy Gardner, I think they did an excellent job. They fit the part. I'm a Henry Cavill fanatic, but even I must admit that David Cornsweet did a great job. And overall, if I was going to give it a rating, and I did see you rated it already, and I'm trying to not have it influence me.
Yeah.
I give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave it a 6. And it was, like you said, admirably well cast. There were some great sequences in it. As the trailer showed us, there was, Guy Gardner as the Green Lantern of choice. There was a Hawk Girl. There was the Mr. Terrific. I think those worked well as a team, because there were the quirkiness
Did
to
they,
them.
though? Yeah. Okay, let's talk about this.
They didn't, like, in a cinematic way, they did not work well as a team. Oh, not a cinematic, like in universe, they did not work well as a team. But I think just as actors, as these characters, as these heroes, they were kind of like the Warriors 3 to Thor, where they're just there. They are immensely powerful. They have abilities and stuff in their own way, but they're mostly for comic relief.
I love Nathan Fillion, and I was skeptical about his Guy Gardner. I knew he would put his all in it, and I was surprised how much I enjoyed his character. And I don't think he overdid it, and I don't think they wrote him to be the big jerk that he could have been. Like, they could have really hammed it up and made him, because depending on the writer in the comics, I mean, he can be a real, I'm going to try to keep this clean, a real jerk. I don't think they overdid it. I think they did it just right to make him obnoxious but capable. Hawk Girl, you could have inserted any character in there and it would have been the same. Like, Hawk Girl, why have Hawk Girl without Hawkman? But even if you want a female lead, I would have found 100 other characters more interesting than what they made her, and it wasn't her fault. She did a admirable job. But I wish she had either a larger part or no part. Like, just don't.
Yeah, she was right at that precipice of, like, being like, okay, you're starting to break yourself out as your own. No, scene's changed. Okay, out you go. That was a little disappointing. And like you said, Mr. Terrific, though, what are your thoughts on him?
I've always liked the character, even when he wasn't cool. I tend to not like characters.
I knew him before he's popular.
Cool. Yeah, so I've liked him. I followed him since his first appearance in the Spectre. I liked the Golden Age version of Mr. Terrific. From what I've read, I can't say I have a ton of stuff with him in it because he died. This Mr. Terrific is awesome, super intelligent. I think the actor played him very well. I was very glad he was in the movie. I'm just going to cut to what bothered me most.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, I'm going to cut to it.
Our opening.
This was a Superman movie, and it didn't seem like he was all that super. It seemed like Mr. Terrific was super.
Yeah.
Guy Gardner kicked butt. Even Hawk Girl didn't really lose a battle. But our main character, Superman, lost every battle that he was in. Like, there wasn't one thing that he, other than saving lives, which I loved that. I loved it.
Even down to ridiculous level.
Like, he lost every battle. Got wounded and damaged and all this stuff. There wasn't, he didn't defeat one battle by himself, or there wasn't even a robber that a bullet bounced off his skull. It was. I know this is maybe the theme of the movie. It wasn't Superman, it was Superman.
Yeah, where are you putting that emphasis? Yeah.
Right. It was that he's more human than super, and then that maybe that's what you should have got out of it. But if the whole world envied this guy, I don't see why. Like there was other superheroes that were clearly better heroes than this guy.
Yeah, I wonder if this one was like, we're going to play up the fact that Superman has a wide range of abilities, and thus he's Superman. Whereas the other characters really all had kind of the one thing: Green Lantern, the ring, Hawkgirl, kind of the wings, and Mr. Terrific had his spheres. But Superman can do all sorts of powers, thus making him, that may have been the super part more than the traditional, like, explosive, superpower that he can move planets out of orbit, that kind of a thing, and block atomic missiles, off his chest, kind of a thing. Yeah, I kind of wondered about that too, because with, the fact they did try to qualify it, for those, this isn't really a spoiler because it's going to happen in the first 2 seconds, but instead of a exposition dump of let's tell his origin, it was a crawl, and they kind of explain, Superman was super up to a point. So we're catching him at the point when he's not super.
I guess, and words at the beginning were kind of neat to read, and it fast forwarded an origin that wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
I do think it was all nicely done. I went right into my gripe, but overall I liked the movie. I thought the special effects were cool. We could talk about the villains. Yawn. What really, I fell in love with the supporting cast, and I thought Superman was just okay.
Yeah, I can see that. Even Jimmy Olsen had almost more screen time and doing more journalism than Clark Kent did. But it's implied that Clark did a lot of journalism. But we actually saw Jimmy Olsen doing most of the journalism.
Yeah, it was 5 minutes of Clark, 20 minutes of Jimmy.
Yeah.
Which is too bad, because I think he did look like a good Clark Kent.
Yep.
Who stole the show for me was Lois Lane. That is John Byrne's Lois Lane.
Yeah, it has that kind of, not the gruffness that Margot Kidder brought to the character, where it was a little too street smart, heavy smoker, 1970s version. But yeah, this one didn't pull any punches, was very, that was in the trailers, very much a, if I'm a reporter, I'm a reporter, so brace yourself.
She was tough, she didn't need a man, but you could tell that, she loved Superman and went out of her way, risked her own life to save him and all that. So that's the Lois. I would watch a Lois Lane movie, and I never thought I'd say that. If she,
well, maybe that was maybe we'll get all those wacky golden age Superman's gal, Lois Lane. It's like she's now dating Atlas. No, Superman's jealous.
Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen TV series.
Yeah. They can kind of exaggerate. But yeah, she did an excellent job. You felt like she understood her character exceptionally well and did a good job. I've not seen that Miss Maisel or whatever the show was that was on Amazon Prime, but apparently she did really, really well there too. So I don't think there was anybody that I thought poorly cast, but I do think there was a miscasting, and that was, they did a good job, but it was Ma and Pa Kent. I enjoyed the intent, but I didn't enjoy this over stereotyping. Are these people from the 50s, from the 1950s, and they just never understood? My mom is much older, and she flies on her iPhone. She never had computer training and all that stuff. She's all over it. The scenes with them was kind of at some point, I would like to see a moonshine distillery in the back, of the farm, Kent farm. It was just way too corny. I mean, I know it was supposed to be small town, middle of America, but they're not technologically, decades behind everybody else. And I think that was a little rough. Like I said, the acting, those two actors were fine. They did a good job. They delivered the lines well. but it just felt way too ham-fisted about like, you're from the middle of the United States. No one knows what you guys do, and you don't know what the rest of the world's like. Yuck, yuck, yuck.
A little too hick.
Yeah, hayseed. It's just this little, and it's like you didn't need to do that. Instantly kind of threw me off, especially like their first appearance in the movie, which I do not think is in a trailer, so I won't say anything further about it. But that first appearance is like, ooh, yeah. They show up on the screen, and you're like, oh, no, even down to like what's said is very much like, if there was a way of being racist against something, this was a racist hillbilly, I guess. Yeah. They just portrayed him as podunk can get. They're just one step away from, being Cletus, the slack-jawed yokel from The Simpsons, where it's just like, people in Kansas are not like that. There's some major cities in that state. There's a lot. And, oddly enough, the internet works there too, so they can keep up with everybody else. There's no hub of culture anymore like that, like, the coast once were.
They use more technology, through the farm and stuff than a lot of people do.
Oh yeah, the giant, multi-million-dollar tractors with GPS and air conditioning. I mean, just James Harriet, all creatures great and small. It's like the
horses pulling the tractor along.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was raised by the Amish. Right. It's very that one of the true emotional beats in the movie was with the Kents. And like I said, it was well acted and such, but that part was rough.
Yeah, there was no tornado, though. I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah, just stay there. Don't come and rescue me.
Right. I know you could save my life in a blink of an eye, but that's okay. Stay right there.
Sometimes you just got to let them die.
Right.
What? Yeah. So, marked improvement. I will say also, the first time I saw that was supposed to be Paul Kent, because that's who you saw in the trailer was Paul Kent. I was taken aback, but I thought, well, this is different, and it doesn't have to be, what was it, Glenn Ford in the 1978 movie?
Right.
It's like you didn't have to be this old codger, that they always kind of portrayed him in the comic books. And it doesn't have to be this, giant 3-story provincial looking country farm estate. It was just a ranch house.
Right.
And it's like, well, yeah, I guess, small town, small farms, just the two of them doing their thing. So it's like, yeah, I can see that. So, there was some good aspects to it, but what they were given was a little insulting.
Don't get me started on the spoiler side of who Jor-El and Laura were. We'll talk about that later. It was what I expected, I guess.
The trailers did definitely spell out almost the entire movie.
It did, and that's unfortunate. I've said this before when we've talked about other Superman stuff and what we would do different. I'm just really tired of Lex Luthor being the only villain, head honcho, to show up in a Superman movie. Like, you can't get Brainiac. I'm just tired of Lex Luthor, and of course he's the main bad guy in here. Everybody knows that from the trailer.
Yeah,
and the actor did a good job, and he wasn't as annoying as other Luthors, certainly.
yeah.
But I don't know. Please get Lex a break. He doesn't need to show up every time. You said you gave it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like if you were coming into this movie not knowing anything about DC or Superman, would you want to continue on this universe?
Probably not. And not to just be contrary. This was a James Gunn film. It felt like a James Gunn film. It had the beats of a James Gunn film. It just, instead of Star-Lord, you saw Superman. Instead of Gamora, you saw Lois Lane. And, you could almost swap out So it's like you didn't need to know the characters because the characters didn't really matter too terribly much because
Was Crypto Groot?
Rocket Raccoon. The point being is just that this didn't feel as much of a Superman movie as it did a James Gunn movie that starred Superman. Great director for what he does, but it's like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to get it when I go into a James Gunn movie. There's going to be anachronistic music, check. Casting that may be questionable, but ultimately works out okay. Everybody is snarky in some way. The ending is going to be somewhat cliched and not necessarily you wouldn't be surprised. So it just lets you down as like okay, that was how the movie ended. Like I said, well acted, well directed. The choreography was good. The effects was pretty good. There was a couple of shots that I could have done without, special effects wise. It was just hard on the eyes.
Yeah. What'd you think about the flying scene where you're close up to his face and he's just flying and there's wind going behind him and it's just super close up. It shows how fast he's going. Did you like that interpretation of it?
The technology's there to do it, and I can see why he did it, but it was a little, there was almost too much of that fish-eyed lens in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Where it was just like things were kind of bowing and stretching, and it was okay. I look back and, you see some of those early movies where I think they animated, some of Captain Marvel's flight, or was it in the serials or Superman's flight, where all of a sudden he'd turn into a cartoon and then he'd fly, so come a long way. So you might as well interpret it however you want to interpret. It did the job, but again, it just felt like having watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2, the whole opening sequence when they're battling that giant squid monster kind of a thing, and Baby Groot is just kind of dancing. That's pretty much what this whole movie felt like. Just like the camera kept panning, the camera kept tilting, the camera kept whipping around, and things are going on at all times. Your attention is focused on that Baby Groot, but things are going on in the background and you're just kind of like, yep. And in this movie, things are constantly going on. And, the one moment, and again in the trailer, is when Clark and Lois sit down to interview Superman, and that's where you finally felt like, a moment to breathe here or there.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, it worked out. The dialogue was solid. The interplay between the two actors was great.
Yeah, the acting was good. It just was very personal. Like it looked like you were a fly in the wall, and there's this couple, young couple. And I love that scene that made it for me.
So, that's why I said, it wasn't a 5. It wasn't like dead average, like right down the middle, not good, not great, but it was a 6 because there were solid, good moments in it. It just didn't, like I had my socks firmly in place. They didn't get knocked off,
Right.
Like, now, a coworker of mine, on the other hand, when I went to see him with him on Saturday with my wife and my daughter, that was the 3rd time he had seen it. And he still is like, that was so great. That was so great. And it's like, yeah, that's perfect. I'm glad it was perfect for you, that everything about it was great. And he's been a lifelong Superman fan. His gateway to comics was through Superman. Okay. He's got like one of the original like wooden Superman action figures from the 40s. So this guy is truly dedicated to Superman and loves the movie. Perfect.
Right. If you loved it, that's great for you. I'm happy you found the movie that you've always dreamed of. Maybe I'm cynically old again, but
surprise.
It was good. It was comparing it to other DC movies. It's up there. First Aquaman was good. The first Wonder Woman was great. It's somewhere in the middle there. Man of Steel, I loved. I probably gave that an 8. But there's parts I didn't like about it. It was overall, you could tell James Gunn loved the characters.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he loves Superman, but he loves the universe and he loves all these side characters and stuff like that. So he put his all in it, and I would watch another James Gunn movie. Oh, he ruined the universe, like some reviews have said. It's just let's go back to the Snyderverse. It was so much better.
No, thank you.
No.
I do like it when Superman smiles. There was a lot that was intentionally the opposite of the Snyder movies. It's like where in the Snyder ones, Superman and Zod are just battling it through all these buildings. Lives are lost. Buildings are collapsing. The entire metropolis is just wiped off the face of the planet. And then here, Superman's actually trying to stop buildings from falling over in order to rescue people.
And there's comments, oh, nobody died, 20 people hurt. Like James Gunn is going out of his way to say Superman saved all these people.
And then, the dark and broodiness that Snyder invoked Henry Cavill's Superman. This Superman was like, golly, gosh,
right.
Gee whiz, and it's like, when he's in this Superman persona, he's, truly that kind of Boy Scout, good and good. The costume was brighter blue than the dark blue and even had the, sporting the trunks.
Yeah, I didn't mind the costume. I still hate the S shield. I don't. It's like I saw someone comment that it was like a slash.
Yeah, it was like the Ghostbusters symbol was going to start showing out. That ghost was going to start coming out from that symbol. In between, it's like, nope. It's the Ghostbusters 2 logo.
It's an S. It should be an S. So let me see an S, but I don't.
Yeah. What did you think about some of the Silver Age references from like the super robots to Crypto, which was pretty much a Silver Age, character, some other nods to the Silver Age?
There was enough to get a little smile, but it wasn't overwhelming. I think he did a good job of that. The super robots in the fortress were, they were meant to be humorous, and that's fine. I enjoyed Crypto probably the most out of all that stuff, just because it was so nice to see something different on the screen. Like Crypto hadn't been portrayed in the Superman movie before, and so I felt like he finally took a risk and did something different, because let's face it, Lex Luthor and Land, I mean, it was there. Crypto, never there before, and that was cool. And the fortress, it was Crystal again, and I understand you want to tribute to the original Christopher Reeve Superman, but I was hoping for the big old door with the key.
Yeah, on the side of a cliff.
I would have loved that. I would have peed my pants.
Well, it was already problematic as he's brought in again. It's in the trailer, so no spoilers here. But as he was carried into the fortress, Crypto couldn't drag, with the key and Superman to get the door open.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, the key is fantastic. And I did like that with the All-Star Superman, the Grant Morrison one, where he brought the key back, but it was this tiny little house key.
Right. Yeah, under the mat.
Yeah, under the mat. But it's made out of a dwarf star, the heaviest thing in the universe. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which would theoretically throw, if it's that heavy as a dwarf star, wouldn't it change like the Earth's gravity? But well.
Right.
But yeah, it was good. I liked a lot of the Silver Age references that were thrown in there just to kind of give it, for old folks. Oh, that's a fun nod, and it was back to kind of letting you know this isn't going to be a super serious movie, no pun intended, but it's not going to be one where it's like this dark and brooding, because it's like he's got robot assistants, he's got a dog, he's all of that kind of stuff, even down to not quite spoilers. I'm trying to think. So that was more Bronze Age about glasses reference, but
right, yeah.
Aspects where it's just like, oh, if that's a nice little tip of the hat. How many street names and nods to other references along the way did you catch?
Did not catch as many as I wanted to. I caught a couple, but again, I only saw it once, so give me a little. I was just trying to enjoy the movie. It wasn't Liefeld's shoes kind of
Yeah, where things are hidden.
whatever. Yeah, but it was nice to see some nods.
It was good to give some credit. I was kind of surprised with some of the names that showed up on street names. I was like, really? Well, I guess.
Right.
I thought there'd be other people that had more pivotal roles that
Right.
could have had a name up there, but
I think we should tell everyone the spoiler-free zone is done.
yep. So episode 1 complete.
Complete. This is a now spoiler
Riddled.
driven section, and I'll put some Thunder Chicken music in right here. It'll separate it. When we come back, we're gonna talk about my biggest problem. It's a major spoiler. Okay, so we're in spoiler zone. If you haven't seen the movie, you shouldn't be listening to this unless you want to be spoiled. I mean, whatever. I'm not your mom. Okay, so it's just you and me and the spoiler people now.
Yep. Let's just talk some candid talk.
Am I to understand in this movie that James Gunn wants us to think that because the message that Jor-El sent to the Earth with Kal-El, because it was damaged, is the only reason that Superman is a good guy instead of a bad guy? Because if it hadn't been damaged, are they implying that he would have followed? He thought the message was take care of them and be nice to them. So that's what he did. But had the full message reached him when he was a child, it was take over and rule this planet like it was Krypton. Is he implying that that's what he would have done?
It could be read that way. Yeah. There's definitely a lens that's, shining bright, exposing that as a possibility.
So Superman isn't good because he's good. He's good because he thought his parents were good.
Yep. And he just made some assumptions. So I don't know. There's also a level where, it was implied, that all the Justice Gang knew who he was.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's just too trusting. And I kind of feel as if that, you can't get a trust out of a message. So I think there was just something about like, he hopes for the best in people. He's hoping. And I think that even with that message having been its full intent, I think there was still enough of the inbred version of the Kents.
Yeah.
That they said, you got to be nice to people. That Forrest Kent. It definitely felt like that was somewhat in there. And then that's why he, made the choice that, they wouldn't say anything negative about it at the end.
Yeah, it just bugged me. Like, that I like Superman because his morals cannot change. Like, that is who he is as a person. And then to think that's just who he is because he thought that's what his parents wanted him to do.
Yeah.
That doesn't sit well with me.
No.
And I understand the influence of Mom, Pa Kent were instrumental in keeping him, the way he was. But
and they never really tell you when did this fortress come about. Was it in the last 5 years? And he already established himself as Superman. I know in the crawl it says he's been around for 3 years at this point. But, maybe he didn't get the fortress built until 2 years ago. And at that point, he's already had his moral compass built and everything. And then he came across that, this is what they said. And I like to think that, he would have ended it this way because, that would be the intent. As opposed to, like you said, did he hear this when he was 10? And then that's what did it? mean, it'd be different if he's already reached adulthood before having heard that message at all. So without knowing when the fortress was built or when he uncovered that, that they're still working on the getting the rest of the message. It was lost in the shipment of it, whatever, damaged during transit. It still was like, well, but maybe they only unearthed it 2 years ago or something like that. So it didn't really, and it's like, well, it gave me some comfort because actually I'm hearing Kryptonian language and I'm hearing from my parents just the dulcet tones of Bradley Cooper.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about Bradley Cooper as Jor-El. That took me out of the movie. Like seeing Bradley Cooper, it's like, why? I would rather have a nobody.
Yeah, anybody could have done that.
And I know Marlon Brando also took me out of the movie, although I was younger and I didn't really know who that was at the time. But I don't know why. I know they're friends.
Yeah, it's like when you're in a bunch of movies together, you just kind of like, hey, I'm used to working with this guy. Wouldn't it be fun to have him in one of my other movies and as a cameo role? Yeah. Did you ever see the Dungeons and Dragons movie?
Yeah, I did.
And he appeared in that one as well?
Bradley Cooper? Oh, yeah, he did.
It's one of the worst special effects.
It was the worst in that movie for sure.
And the whole segment was terrible.
Yes, I totally agree. I enjoyed that movie, but that part was ridiculously bad.
Yeah. So I had... when I saw that it started panning and it showed him, I'm like going, oh no, it did not have to, because then all of a sudden I'm like looking at it. It's like, are we back in Limitless? What is this? Right. Yeah.
Are we in the Shallows now?
Yeah. It's Bradley Cooper as Jor-El. It was like, it could have just been Jor-El and it would have been less impactful. Or maybe it's just because, Bradley Cooper usually plays a nice guy, and I can't imagine that something negative would come out of that guy. He looks so nice.
I guess. And I mean, now that I think about it, there's always been a famous actor as Jor-El, but I don't know, Bradley Cooper. I don't like anything that pulls me back to the movie theater, and it's like, why is Bradley Cooper in the Superman movie? I mean, I forgave it pretty quickly because it wasn't that big of a part. It was 10 seconds.
Out there pretty quick. I wasn't opposed to the message in general. Like, oh yeah, from Krypton, I guess, from their point of view, because even in the DC universe, how many inhabited worlds are there? Couldn't they have shot them off to dox them? Couldn't they have shot them off to any of the other planets from the Legion of Superheroes? There's millions of planets out there.
Right.
But, they picked Earth, and it's like, in the Byrne universe, when we talked about that during, it's like they picked it because it's like, yeah, he'll be, this is an ideal planet. It's like, oh, the chest hair. Oh, the vapors.
The vapors. The yellow sun will give you extreme strength and
so it just kind of played it up as like, this is for his betterment. He may be alone, but at least he'll be powerful. Here it was like, well, yeah, if you're going to pick a planet, and we're already seeing that there's Green Lanterns that are protecting the other planets, then why did they pick Earth? And that was a good enough reason to say, oh, we're picking Earth because you can rule over it.
That thought, I'm sure it's been done in the comics, but it didn't bother me, that idea. It just bothered me the way they did it with the broken recording. It just seemed to be so convenient. It was a plot device. I understand.
Yeah.
It didn't work for me.
There was some aspects that, like I said, one of the things about the Silver Age that I didn't bring up in the spoiler-free part of it was that Lex's sole existence wasn't about running a multi-billion-dollar company. It wasn't about being the smartest person out there. Because, I mean, if he can recreate a Big Bang in his own lab, why does he care? But then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, he's all about, I gotta stop Superman 24/7.
Yep.
And that's where I was like, ugh. And again,
Yep.
going back to the Burn, that miniseries, it's like he's a businessman, and he runs the town, he owns the town. Superman's kind of inconsequential to it. Yeah, be an inconvenience, yeah, but not an obsession, and that's what kind of threw me off. Speaking of, there was 2 scenes that had thrown me off. And I'm going to say one scene repeated itself throughout the movie, so I'm kind of cheating a little bit. But one aspect about Superman is that he's usually calm, collected, the leader. I didn't feel any of those with this version of Superman. He
wasn't there.
He got upset by the ridiculous pun of a million monkeys typing TikTok friends.
Yeah, I could have done without that.
And that made him mad. It's like social media made him mad, and I'm thinking like, no, that wouldn't be Superman being upset by it. It's like, he's freaking Superman. He's above it all, kind of a thing. And I guess this is, again, trying to pull his humanity, card.
Yep.
That, I've got feelings. I get hurt. I put on my boots one at a time.
I have big boy pants on, and I'm just going to do it anyway because I know mankind is good.
Yeah. So that was a little like, and I know he's not like, 3 years, maybe he hasn't established himself as that true, like, I'm on top of things. Because you look at Captain America in the Avengers movie, Avengers Assemble, and all of a sudden he's leading all these characters, and you felt as if Cap was in charge. And it's like, wow, this dude was frozen for, umpteen years, comes out and he's now up to speed and leading these technological wonders. And I kind of wish that Superman was a little bit more on that leadership, even like, not that he would inspire Green Lantern or Mr. Terrific, but he just felt as if he just wasn't like even at their level. The other emotional component, so like I said, Superman kind of yelling at Lois, yelling at these other moments, and just freaking out. And it's like, oh boy, flipping desks and so forth about crypto, and it's like, wasn't even his dog. No offense, but if your dog's sitting, it's kind of like, well, but they didn't explain whether crypto was Kryptonian or just a dog that had superpowers. So that hasn't been established yet. The other one was at the very end of the movie with Lex. His plans had been foiled. Once again, Superman has set things right. And Lex...
let me correct you. Mr. Terrific set things right.
Yeah, there's that too. I was going to get to that part. But instead of him going like, okay, this didn't work, time to roll out a contingency plan, or roll out, if he's theoretically the second smartest person in the DC universe, he could have had something else ready to go. And he did, he had that portal that he was going to jump into and, save himself. To see him just openly weep was like, really? Somebody that prideful and that obsessed would be like, I'll get you next time, Superman. That was the
and your little dog too.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It was just that kind of reaction is what I was hoping for. That he would be truly this maniacal villain and not like, I didn't get my way. Mwah. Intelligence. He would have been like, okay, I will get myself right back up and do it again. Yeah. If he was truly that obsessed, he wouldn't feel like, oh, that was it. I gave it my best try, and my best try wasn't good enough, so now I'm going to cry. Which leads to the lazy resolution that I was kind of hinting at as well. One, like you said, Mr. Terrific saves the day, but then Superman wins by giving a after-school special lecture, and then almost beat for beat, and pun fully intended, Lex is put down like Hulk puts down Loki. And it's like, I've seen this before. It's not funny. It was done already. This whole like smackdown. And it's like, oh, the bad guy has been put in his place, and even above and beyond put into his place. So that was a little disappointing too. Like you said, Mr. Terrific saves it, stops the big problem. And Superman, all he did was stop Lex from walking into a gateway.
Pretty much. And I didn't have a problem with Mr. Terrific being the solution. I just wish Superman had more of a part in it.
Yeah, he didn't carry Mr. Terrific. The dog carried Mr. Terrific.
Right. Now, what do you think about Lex's team of computer hackers, running the villains, programming, with codes running around, do a B2, a B2, a B2.
Yeah, I was waiting for somebody to say you should sink my battleship, but
right. I found that really annoying.
I didn't mind the team. I kind of thought, well, he would surround himself. I mean, like Mr. Luthor, he had Otis, but this was a bigger group of Otises.
They seemed more competent than most henchmen, though.
Yeah, and it just kind of showed that, he's tech savvy. His approach is many hands will make this work. The irony is, if he was yelling out those codes, it seemed like, and that was just kind of show his intellect, that he knows he's been studying Superman for so long. And that way it was like kind of a show don't tell, moment where, it was like, that guy's got to be smart. He's already anticipating all of Superman's moves. He's been watching them for so long. And it's like, well, that's fine. It shows his level of obsession and so forth. And you had that team that kind of was like there to kind of give that extra, we're going to make this happen. And I like that it was run kind of like a business. It's like safety first, use the handrails. I invented them for a purpose. That kind of a thing where
safety on the stairway.
Yeah. That was good and gave him somebody to kind of talk things out with. I don't know. It could have easily have just been done with Superman or Lex in his battle armor or something like that.
That is one thing one of my sons said was, I wish he had gotten into his battle armor.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
The hammer Bavaria being Lex in that armor would have been kind of fun.
Let's talk about the villains that were with Lex. Of course, there's a clone of Superman, as if, the sun guy dude from Superman 4 wasn't enough.
Was he Solar Man or Nuclear Man?
Nuclear Man, yeah. But this was Ultraman, right? So, which is kind of Bizarro-ish. They could easily bring Bizarro in next time off of that guy. Which he didn't really bother me other than, this has been done before. You have to have someone who's, the reverse Flash for the Flash and a Superman. You can't come up with someone who doesn't have Superman powers to fight Superman.
What baffled me is, like, if you cloned him once, why didn't you clone him and make him a bunch of Raptors?
Right.
A whole legion of these Ultramen.
Because he combed all the places for a fiber of his hair.
Yeah, but then if you got the DNA, you got the DNA. It's not like you have to, you can make the DNA. If he's able to clone, he can make more DNA.
Yeah. I did find the Engineer an interesting choice, and at least it was a new villain.
Yeah.
One not seen before. So I didn't mind her at all. She had some interesting powers.
Now, the Engineer is part of the Authority?
Yes.
And in the Authority is Midnighter and Apollo, which is basically Superman. And obviously Midnighter being Batman. If they do an Authority movie, it's like there's a universe of two Supermans. And then if James Gunn does a Batman, then there's going to be two different Batmans. It's just, I hope they don't do an Authority movie. Let's just say it.
Well, I do too, but
at least say it's not part of this. I'm not a big fan of multiverses. I think they've overstayed their welcome at this point, but it wouldn't be bad if they were like going, well, if we did the Authority, it's because it was in this Wildstorm universe. So there's some of those moments where I was like, well, this is Engineer, yeah, but maybe that's just, it was a character in the DC continuity that he could borrow. So maybe there is no really intent to pull in and say yep, we're doing this Authority thing as well. So Mr. Terrific, they kind of implied what his power was, but it was completely overshadowed by his T-spheres that he invented, which is amazing, but he used them for everything to the point where it made me feel like, is that all he does? Is that his power is the T-sphere? And he's not the super intelligent guy, because it's like, even his T-spheres were used to crack the codes to get into the, it's like, yeah, they're hacking into the system. It's like, oh, so it's your T-sphere, not you. Right. Oh, when I'm fighting these guys in that overly long, and I do feel that one sequence where Lois is protected by the T-spheres, that went on a little bit too long. That they could have shaved like 3 minutes off of that, it would have been just fine.
Sure. And that's a perfect example of what you were saying about, like, things are going on in the background. You're focusing on Lois. I hadn't thought of that till you had said that about the battle, but yeah, it did go on a little long. I know they wanted to show how cool he was.
Yeah, and it shows him punching people, and he's obviously directing those spheres with his hand gestures and so forth, but he wasn't being smart in how he did it. If he were smart, he would have landed that T-craft right outside the gate. They showed exactly where this thing was, like, oh, his footprints end right here. Right. Well, then land your craft right there.
It's a tent.
Have to
go through it.
Now that we landed all the way on the other side of camp, and we have to do this slow walk.
Why did they take the eagles to Mordor?
How it should have ended. Yeah, drop the ring in that way. Yeah, so that part was a little bit like, I do like the fact that they showed, like, how is he at that power level? And it's like, okay, yeah, I can see with these T-spheres, he's invented his way up to a power level. And it's like, yep, okay. But I just wish he was smarter, but it just seemed like mostly all this stuff was coming back to him from the T-spheres and not necessarily him.
Yeah, and it depends. In the comics, they do treat him more as, like, one of the third smartest man in the world, and the T-spheres was a byproduct. And sure, he uses them all the time too, but he's more of a detective. I mean, if the right writer writes him, he's more of like a detective, smart guy, on par with Batman in some ways. And yeah, they just didn't portray him that much. Yeah. He had the drop ship. I mean, the character's cool, and the character was cool in the movie, but I totally agree that fight scene, it could have been a minute and it would have still been cool, but it was like 4 or 5 minutes, and it's like, okay, we get it. Get to the tent. Why do they have to have a hologram of Superman walking towards the tent?
Speaking of overly done, these are gripes. Like I said, the movie was good. It was a good, like, DC superhero, good movie, good enough. The Pixel Creek thing, was that half the movie? Was him swimming in the Pixel Creek thing?
It did drag on, and I question why he couldn't pull himself out of it, but blowing air out of his lungs could get him out of that black hole. Like,
yeah.
How is that more powerful than just him?
Well, or worse yet, this is the biggest offender in the plot hole. Metamorpho, I cannot carry Joey when I am in my form. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, you turn to gas as you fly. That makes sense. You can't hold something when you're in gas form. Only to have 10 minutes later, I'm going to be a squid form and pull Superman out with a jet coming out of the bottom of me. And I'm able to not only fly, but extract Superman, who couldn't extract himself, out of this Pixel Creek thing. But I can't carry Joey.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Metamorpho in this spoiler zone here. I go back and forth on it. It was great to see a character like that.
Yeah, very unique.
Yeah, portrayed as he should be portrayed, at least power wise and look wise. Like they didn't like that's how you should have pictured him. Maybe a couple tweaks here and there, but they at least tried to maintain his comic attire and look, but they kind of made him a wimp, where Rex is a cocky kind of I could do this kind of guy, and then I just with baby and everything, that whole scene with the prisoners in the pocket universe. I wish that scene lasted longer so I could figure out why I didn't think it was even necessary. Like, why have all these people? I mean, the only reason was to have Rex there and Rex's baby there, and to show that Lex was petty. But I don't know. There seem to be hundreds, and I know they show later on at the end of the movie, some of them escaped or whatever. Maybe all of them did, probably, but it just was. It didn't fit in with the movie to me. Like, this could be a different movie where this happened. Now, all these people that have ever talked bad about Lex or anything like that, where there's 1,000 missing people all around Lex Luthor, and no one did anything.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I was like, "What happened here?" Oh, we don't talk about that person. What about this? Nope, don't talk about them either. They never existed. What? Yeah, so all of a sudden they just poof. It was good and bad, because it's like he opens up this universe and he builds everything that's in there. But what was the alien that was like piloting the ship?
Yeah, I had to look that up. I actually Googled what was the creature piloting the floating boat thing, and there's actually a character that he's based off of in the comic books. That was a failed experiment, or I don't know. It was very not only unnecessary because no one, other than a handful of people even knew who that was. I don't know. It was irrelevant. It would have been cool if it was another hero or like something more DC related, or I don't know. I was driving home from the movie. I'm like, what was that thing?
It was just such a because clearly this was like a place he basically created himself. He like ripped it open, and this is what came out of him messing with trying to breach other universes. Again, another reason why there should have been no reason for Lex to be jealous of Superman. This guy can go and travel through dimensions. Right. Who cares if this other guy exists? Because apparently for 300 years, other superheroes have existed. So why does Superman taunt him? It's like there's no reason if there's been all these superheroes all along. It'd be different if it was like he, going back to John Byrne again, sorry, but, Superman shows up after Lex has got his, empire built, and it is implied that really there aren't that many other superheroes. Batman was just kind of around, but not really well known because Superman thought he was a villain, and it's like, nope, this is 300 years. There's been super creatures. So one out of all those, he wasn't mad at Guy Gardner, who has the most powerful weapon in the universe.
Right.
He wasn't upset with Mr. Terrific for being almost as smart as him, making as many gadgets as he does. Nope. Superman. Nope. Don't know why. But again, this is where it feels like, okay, let's just chalk it up to Silver Age, and it's an imaginary tale. Aren't they all? And it's just, let's just roll with it, because it's not going to make or break the movie, if you hang up, everything on that one point. No real big deal with Ultraman. You kind of knew that was going to be a clone of Superman from the get-go.
Yep.
The only thing I thought maybe was that from this alternate dimension that Lex is going into, that he collaborated with Ultraman, and that's in order to keep Ultraman from his other universe stable, he had to be in that full bodysuit.
Yeah, that was a cool suit. That was like an early Doomsday
Yeah.
suit. So there was that little tribute as well. But yeah, I don't know. A dumb Superman clone. It's just, I don't know. It was so boring when that
Yeah.
reveal was like, is anyone in the theater surprised at this?
Yeah. What the, it was like, there was I don't know if he was hoping for the, I am your father like moment. It's no, you're no Darth Vader reveal. How did they open the gate? Okay.
Right.
As soon as I saw that, I'm like going, that's Superman inside that costume.
Yep. It'd been great if, like, Metamorpho would have kryptonited him instead, or something.
Yeah, something. Yeah, that was a little.
Superman needed help anyway, obviously. So,
but
Lex can create a kaiju.
Yeah,
He's like, Lex was ultimately way cooler than Superman, so he had no reason to dislike this guy.
no, he could do so much more. But he does kind of hint at it slightly by saying, like, the world is falling over him.
Yeah, I guess.
But at the same point, all it took was a couple of internet memes, and that was it. I mean, is cancel culture that strong?
At least in Burns' issues, it was like I love Lois, or I want to conquer Lois, but Lois doesn't like me kind of thing, where it was, there was at least another layer to this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Then Jimmy gets all the girls. That was funny. That was different.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. There was something where I felt like, is that like one of those, like, he drank a potion, like, one of those goofy adventures from the Silver Age. Or it's like, now, Jimmy Olsen's an alien space turtle. And you're like, what? That's an issue. Let's go. And we're going to
really happening. We get to see a cameo by Supergirl at the end, and she's a little different than we've seen before. She's like a partier.
Yep, not the CW version.
Nope. And I guess it doesn't bother me either. At least make her different than Superman, and it seems like
they're
gonna try to. We'll see how that matches with this movie and how different it is. Hopefully, it's not her against some bald mastermind lady.
Yeah, Lexana.
Yeah. And
did you stay for both scenes?
Regrettably, I did. I'm so tired of end scenes that have nothing to do with future episodes. Like, they were just little 2-second comedies. It was cute when they first did that, but by now, make it count. People are staying throughout the whole credits for something really lame.
I did like it. Seems like Crypto and Superman finally got, like, okay, I'm not the rambunctious dog, and that was a good, like, okay, that one worked. And then the last one was kind of like, that almost seemed like, oh, hey guys, I got this one idea. It would be kind of funny, since you guys are already in costume, let's have you just stand here and just when you say something about, like, well, I would have fixed this better. Oh yeah,
you want me to redo it?
It was really a throwaway. Like, did you, like, actually get a whole crew to make this?
It seemed like something that was on the editing floor, and then someone said, "Oh, we need an end scene. How about this?"
Get some people to sit in the seats and watch all 500 different digital effects companies.
Yeah.
List all their employees that they've ever hired or had on staff at some point. And it's like, yeah, give credit. I mean, that was a lot of special effects. That Metamorpho dude wasn't in full prosthetics. That was a lot of CG work there. I did like how well crafted Mr. Terrific's T mask was. Because I was studying that thing, because it was like, we're like, that tea just flowed right into his eyelids. I mean, they really worked hard to make certain, like, unlike, the Batman, where it's like they had to put the raccoon eyes on Batman in order for his mask to kind of blend in with his eyes. So you wouldn't see his white skin around his eyeballs. And I thought, wow, they really worked on that. And they did. I thought they did a good job. And the fact that it molded just like perfectly to that guy's face. I wonder how much of that was like, did they just put green dots on his face for computer recognition as to where to place that mask so that guy could actually talk without having this thing inhibit his ability to move his head at all?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen any of the after, behind the scenes stuff, so I'm not sure, but that'll be interesting to watch. So let's wrap this baby up. Overall, I give it a 7.
Yep, I gave it a 6.
And
it's worth seeing once. It was good. It was a nice jump from what Snyder had done. There wasn't like, I got a kick out of the fact that I was going to even say when Lois brings Clark back to Smallville and she goes, "I'm Martha." I was going to say, "Why did you use that name?" There wasn't any of that ridiculousness. There was other ridiculousness, but it wasn't like where everything is people yelling at each other. There was actual dialogue.
Yeah.
So I will give it props for that.
Pa Kent didn't bother me. It was Ma Kent that bothered me. I'm not sure why. Haven't pinpointed it yet. She didn't have a real big part anyway, so it's no big deal. The look of the character, I think it was, and not the actress, but it was just...
Yeah, it was kind of a weird, like, how old is she? I couldn't figure out because her hair wasn't white, but she looked like she was 800.
Right.
And then she, with that twang... Now, Clark, you listen here. You don't be a stranger. And it's like, oh, and her mannerisms also were that of somebody who is, up there in the years of like, I got to set this phone down and talk into it, and you're just like, oh, this is so bad. But then, the hair coloring made it look as if she were younger. And Pa Kent just looked like he just came off of a bender because he was never clean shaved. And it's like, Pa, are you drunk again? And he just seemed like this emotionally...
You smell funny.
Yeah, that he was like, he's an old mush.
That was another character that took me out of the movie because all I could see was Otis from The Walking Dead because that's who he played before. Maybe it was the beard. I don't know. I never thought about that. Facial hair on Pa Kent hasn't been done before. I'm not against it.
No, but it was it was just not even like a 3-day shadow. It was just kind of this stubbly, unkempt, quality, and not, they just looked country bumpkinish. It was like one of those things where it's like everything about them just felt well acted. I thought they did a good job, and the dialogue was okay-ish when they're doing the emotional beat between Pa Kent and Clark.
Yeah.
But even that felt like the drunk revelries of an uncle that no one wants to talk to, and he comes in and is like, "Hey, everybody, you're the character you wanted to be." It's like, oh gosh. Marvel's pooping out 3 superhero movies this year alone, and I bet you're right now, you're probably thinking 3, what 3? And it's like, yeah, we still have the Fantastic Four to get through. I like the Fantastic Four as characters. I know you've got your question marks on them, but I like the characters, and I'm loving Galactus. I cannot stand the cast in that movie. It's like Pedro Pascal is the worst. He's in everything, and all you see is Pedro Pascal. It's like he's the Mandalorian as Pedro Pascal. He's in this one, and it feels like he might as well just throw the helmet on. He talks just like he does when he's the Mandalorian. And you're like, there's no difference. When I saw him in that, what was it, the Kingsman, the Golden Circle movie or something like that, he was in that one with the lasso and stuff, and it's just like, he plays the same, he's like Ryan Reynolds, where you just feel like you do a really good Ryan Reynolds role, but don't ask Ryan Reynolds to go like, I want you to do some Shakespeare. His range of acting just isn't there. It's got to be snarky. It's got to be comedic.
And it's The Rock as The Rock.
Yeah, exactly. The same thing. They make money. People go to see him. Jason Statham I mean, that dude has it in his contract how many times he can be hit. He can only hit others. Others can't hit him. And it's like, good grief. You're playing, the working man, the beekeeper, they're all the same character. Yep. I mean, it's like if there was ever a multiverse, it's called Jason Statham in other universes bringing himself over as these characters because it's just him. Him in The Expendables is the same character as any other ones, but the same with Pedro. It's like, ugh. And then the terrible hair dye and those soulless eye contacts in Johnny Storm just takes me right out. Like, nothing about this guy's real. Yeah. He might as well have been drawn by AI.
I really hope the story's good because, it's not going to be the acting.
Yeah, but if it's got Pedro, it's going to be like him just mumbling his words like, welcome, this is the Baxter Building, and we have dinner here every night. It's like, are we going to be safe? We will protect you. And it's like, give him some Prozac, something to wake the dude up. Are you in it just for the paycheck? Probably. Strike while the iron's hot. The Seth Green syndrome, where it's like his comedy was good for the time it was in. And he himself said, why am I doing so many movies? Because my window of people being interested in me doing these movies is going to be short. So I better jam it full of my movies.
Yeah, might as well stay busy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the studio or whatever it is he did for Apple TV is doing really, really well. So
good.
But he's kind of also separated himself from that James Franco dude, so I think that's also helped.
So if you've seen Superman, James Gunn Superman, let us know. Tell me how you liked it, what you thought about it, what you nitpicked about it, and everything about it. Let me know what movie you are looking forward to next in the James Gunn-iverse, and we'll chat it up as they come out. I'm not sure Mike will see him again twice in a row, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe 3 times. I don't know.
Ideally, well, I will say, I gave it a 6 because my expectations and my hopes and it being Superman and the first were so high. My wife actually flat out said, I wouldn't mind watching other superhero movies.
Ooh.
So there's that.
All right. Well, that's at least a 6.5 then. Our webpage is, and this is why I love comics podcast.buzzsprout.com. You can email us at, and this is why I love comics at gmail.com. We're on the X, and this is why L1. Join us on the Facebook. Follow us, and this is why I love comics podcast. We're on the TikTok at why I love comics podcast. Thanks again to all our supporters and friends of the show. Thanks to producer Katie, producer Tony, and all our previous co-hosts that we should really have back on soon. Matt 2.0, 10.0, Kevin, Jamie, and of course, thanks to Thunder Chicken for all their tunes. Check them out on Spotify. I have all these links in our show notes. Ba-bum-bum. Well, Superman, done. Of course, next episode, Man of Steel, John Byrne. That'll be next Monday. Look forward to that as well. It's a Superman month.
All Superman all the time.
That's right. And then we'll do some other stuff. So join us again next time for the podcast. I am Andy.
And I'm Mike.
Good. See ya later. See ya. Bye. Bye-bye. Adios. Treat others as you would want to be treated.
Words of wisdom. What did you crack open out of a fortune cookie? That's how we ended.
Wow, I should write these.